Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Paul's Ramblings and Stuff. I am, of course, Paul, and I'm changing things up a little bit here. Over here was the bar where we were at the other day for episode 2. Today I'm going to change things up, and I wanted to show you a little bit of the basement here. This is all the bobbleheads that we've accumulated over the years, mostly from my dad that I have inherited since he passed away back in 2017. He had season tickets to the Cardinals, and he went to a bunch of games. He collected these. We had a lot of duplicates and over the years. And some were contributed by friends and stuff, but what a great way to memorialize my father. And he diehard Cardinal fan, so am I, but he loved the Cardinals, and he would probably love it down here. Also here, one of my favorites, see it right there, is 11-time World Series championship ticket stubs from each of the 11 World Series. How many National League teams can say that? Actually, how many baseball teams can say that? Only one. The New York Yankees have 20-something, I believe. Cardinals are second best. Hey, that's pretty darn good out of all the baseball teams. Anyway, we have a good show for you today. I have a great show for you today. I am going to be joined by my buddy Jim Johnson from Northern Michigan. He has a Facebook page, Jim Johnson's Ramblings About Comics and Stuff. See the connections? Ramblings. Anyway, here is the interview. Enjoy.
We are talking with Jim Johnson. Jim, thanks for joining us today.
Pleasure to be here, Paul.
How is it going? You're up in near Detroit, aren't you?
That's correct. I live in northwestern suburb, about 40 miles outside of downtown, and right now we are getting wisps of lake effect snow from all the way across the state.
Oh my God! What's the temperature up there?
You probably don't want to know. 21 degrees.
21?
21.
You're warmer than us. We are
really?
18. With
I'm
huge
sorry
wind
to hear
chill,
that in that case. Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yeah, no kidding. Usually it's the other way around. You guys are
you got snow there? You got snow there?
You know how when you make brownies and you put powdered sugar on top of the brownies, you don't have that much on there?
Yeah,
that's kind of what the ground looks like here.
That's exactly what we're getting.
Really?
So, the unfortunate thing, not for us, but the way the weather patterns have gone is all these snowstorms, they originate out your way somewhere, or even west of you. They dive south, like through like Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, and then sweep up the East Coast. And we're sitting here pretty with just like what'd you just say? Powdered sugar snowflakes.
Powdered sugar, yeah. I mean, for us, it normally comes like across the country and then kind of just goes around north and south of St. Louis. And I'm like, hey, I want snow.
Well, I'm glad we're being spared the worst of it. Although, sorry about the cold there.
Yeah, I like the cold.
That makes one of us.
We are going to get to that awesome background that you have in a little bit. That is pretty darn cool. Anyway,
oh, you mean my literal background back here?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Awesome.
Yes. That looks pretty cool back there.
Thank you.
You have a pretty cool Facebook page.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Jim Johnson's Ramblings About Comics and Stuff.
Thank you.
It is awesome. Tell us how you got that going.
All right. So I always start off by saying, here's the short version, and then I always digress into the long version, but I'll try not to do that. So back when I started writing for, I don't know if your audience knows anything about comic books or not, but back in 2001, I started writing professionally about comics and pop culture. And a few years after that, the magazine I wrote for, they were called Comics Buyer's Guide, CBG, we called it a lot. They were at one point like the dominant news outlet for comics and related topics. They sadly became a victim of the digital, explosion and went under some years ago. But before that, they started up a website, and they offered me a column, and I took them up on it, and I called my column Ramblings About Comics and Stuff. And I wrote that for several years until the website went dark before the magazine went under, and that put an end to my column. But I resurrected the name for my so-called professional writing Facebook page, and I came to call that Ramblings About Comics and Stuff. And if anyone who goes on Facebook, if you just go in the search bar on Facebook and type in Ramblings About Comics and Stuff, I think it'll come up. So basically what I just created that page for was as an outlet to share some of the writings I currently do for the site I write for now, which is Comic Book Resources, cbr.com. And for those who might not see my stuff otherwise, I just put it up there for anyone who might be interested.
Awesome. How did you get into comics and stuff?
How did I get into comics? Well, there is no short version of that, but all right. So I discovered, I'll put it this way. When I was 14 years old, which goes back to the 1970s, I discovered the Avengers, the comic. And I discovered the Avengers as characters because they appeared in a cameo appearance in the Marvel Comics Kiss special, which came out that year. That was the Marvel Kiss comic that was printed in real blood and all that. Mm-hmm. That was the first comic I ever bought, but it featured the Avengers. So it had Captain America, had Iron Man, Thor, and I was captivated. And I thought, what a cool comic. And then I discovered there was an Avengers comic published every month. My mind was blown. My 14-year-old mind was blown. So I picked up that then current issue of the Avengers, and I never looked back. Been hooked ever since, some 44 years later.
That's awesome. And I actually remember, I'm not terribly big into comics, but I do remember that Kiss comic book. I don't know why I remember that, but I remember, I guess it was Gene Simmons with his big shoe coming down or something like that. You
seem too young to remember that, though.
Oh, I'm almost 50.
You're younger than me, but yeah, I don't. You might have been right at that age where it might have grabbed you. I at 14 years old. See, that's a little back then anyway. That was kind of past when most kids were into comic books. Uh-huh. I never really got into them when I was younger, although I was exposed to them. But at 14, I thought, what does every 14-year-old kid think? I'm too cool for my stuff. I know everything, right. And I thought, hey, these comics actually look cool. And I was the only kid I knew at that age who was reading them. But nobody scoffed at it, so I kept at it. And it's funny how many people I hear say what you just said. It's like, hey, I remember that comic, whether they read it or not. They remember seeing it. And the whole thing about it being printed in Kiss blood, which, if you didn't know the story, I mean, the band actually poured vials of their own blood into the red ink vat at the printer. So wow. There's actually their DNA in the comic, which sounds absolutely disgusting in this age of the pandemic. But hey, back then it was cool. And it's still in my collection in the other room. And that's what got me into comics. But there's a lot of people like you who say what you just said, that they remember it. And a comic book printed in blood is kind of hard to forget.
Yeah. There is another article on your site that kind of caught my eye. It's the Santa superhero. Now, awesome. Did you reprint that, or did you redo it when you
both? Okay. So I am glad you brought that up, because that's one of the favorite pieces I've ever written. Uh-huh. Back when I had a column with CBG, that was one of the columns I wrote. And as I prefaced it, when I recently posted it, that came at a time in my life when I just wasn't all that happy as a person. I was in a bad relationship, and I wasn't feeling the Christmas spirit, right? So I kind of felt the need to kind of write something about Christmas. And at the time, there was a lot of the idea of Santa Claus was kind of being questioned by some because parents didn't like their kids sitting on Santa's lap at the mall, and we're all telling our kids stay away from strangers, and here's an old man offering kids candy, and it just seems like if Santa Claus were invented today, that template wouldn't really fly. So I felt kind of inspired back then to say, well, what would he be like now? And I called the piece Super Santa because basically I saw him as a superhero. And when I wrote that piece, Paul, it kind of gave me that self-created sense of Christmas cheer that I really needed in my life.
Right.
And that was why I did it. And over the years, because the website that hosted it is no longer around, I've hosted it on my own Facebook. But then when I started my Ramblings page, I thought, well, that's for all my writings. I'll put it on there, and people seem to dig it. And I try to sell it to them by saying, if any of you aren't feeling the Christmas spirit, take a gander at this. Maybe you'll start feeling it. And I hope someone did.
And I don't know what age kids stop believing in that stuff. Probably early teens or something. But it's something that's, as they get older, Santa's got superpowers. He doesn't physically come down the chimney. He doesn't come in your house. He teleports your gifts. That's awesome. And you referenced the pandemic in there.
Yeah.
And did you add that, or was that from 2005?
No, that was, I'm not that, what's the word? Precognizant. That was when I run the piece, I tweak it here and there.
Okay.
Fix some, I made it a little more topical because obviously in 2005, the idea of a pandemic ever hitting again didn't even cross anyone's mind. So that was just to try to make it a little more relatable to today's audiences.
As I was reading that, I'm like, how did you know in 2005? I was going to ask you about the lottery ticket numbers and split it with you.
I hit the Powerball. I won $8 on the Powerball last night.
Awesome.
But I'm not entertaining any partnership or investment offers, so I am very sorry. Now, the
awesome.
piece, maybe I might not have made it clear when I reposted it, but I did. I usually do try to. I tweak a sentence or two just to make it a little more relevant, and the pandemic part was added. Back in the day when I first wrote it, there was an article in the news. You may remember it, you may not, but I think it was in Australia. People in Australia took offense to Santa saying "ho ho ho," because they thought it took kind of like an urban slang kind of connotation. They didn't want kids to pick up on. And I don't know what they ever did about it down under, but I'm thinking, well, if he's not going to say ho ho ho, what's he going to do? Cackle or what? Yeah, I don't know. So I think now, I don't know if anyone even remembers that, but that's what was relevant back then. Yeah. And the pandemic mention was just to try to make it relevant now.
That's pretty cool. And you also, there's also a bunch of stuff on Comic Cons. You go to San Diego every year. Well, last year.
Yeah, they had the so-called Comic Con special edition last month or November now. And that was not your typical San Diego Comic Con, but I can't say I go every single year. I've missed a couple in the time I've been going, but I go every year that I can. And I'm planning on going next summer, God willing, if the organizers still have it with this pandemic still raging.
There is one planned in St. Louis. I think it's May 13th and 17th of this year. I'm just throwing that out there.
That's good to know. There's hardly a large city that doesn't have a Comic-Con event. Ironically, here in these parts, we call it Motor City Comic-Con. and ours is that same weekend.
Oh,
I believe. No, I am always looking to do conventions, but at the same time, well, yeah, I like to travel, but I don't
Mhm.
like going. I don't like every trip I take to be to a convention. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
for years, you know, like I would go to Chicago every year for theirs, and I came to realize, wow, Chicago is too cool a city to just be inside a convention center the whole time. So
Mhm.
I still go to Chicago, just not to the convention they have there. I'd never been to St. Louis though, so that'd be a great
Come on
that'd be a
down.
great excuse
Come on
to.
down.
You never know. You never know. I just might do
It
that.
in May we can have a big barbecue out here. We can have all kinds of fun.
I like the way it sounds already. I never rule it out. I never say never to any opportunities or
And there's
options for fun.
all kinds of unique craft beers around here. So
Say no more. I'm booking my plane ticket as soon as we're done.
awesome.
My father was born in St. Louis.
Awesome.
That's about the only connection I have to St. Louis. And he, if I remember his story from back in the day, I think he was 12 when his mother moved him and his siblings to the Detroit area, because I was way back during the Great Depression, and his mother couldn't find work. But Detroit was booming, you know, with the auto industry and stuff. So she moved everyone to Detroit, and he stayed put, and that's my hometown.
And I see you're wearing your Detroit Tigers hat. I had to think of the name of the team for a second.
Indeed.
I'm not wearing my Cardinal stuff. I don't even have any Cardinal stuff in here.
That's not your World Series, but
no.
I don't have a cup that has.
I do have All-Star Game 2009. Oops.
Is that when it was there last?
That was the All-Star Game. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Cool.
Yep. Just for anybody listening, we've met in the World Series 3 times, as far as I can tell. Cardinals have won twice.
Yeah.
In 2006 and 1934, and Detroit beat us in 64.
You know, I did forget about that 1934 one. So you do have us 2-1 on that. I got to give you that.
Well,
2006, I remember very well. But I
was at the. There's a story with me and my wife. I was at the clinching game. She was sitting here in our living room watching it, not happy. Long story short, she couldn't go to one of the games. I sold my ticket to a friend. That game got rained out. I didn't have the heart to give him his money back and say, you can't go to the next one. The next game they won, and he was there. She wasn't. So
was that game 5? I want to say.
Yeah.
Because the anecdote that I think I told you when we were setting this up is I had a ticket to game 6. and I was hoping they could hold on for one more game. It wasn't looking good for them. I thought, you know, if I could just see him in a World Series game, I'd die happy. But sadly, it didn't get that far. But I got the ticket as a kind of commemorative souvenir from an alternate universe or what have you.
That's awesome. Now, you have, I believe it was last year that you started playing guitar. I'm not going to ask you to play it.
Thank you for sparing your subscribers of that.
Well, about the same time, I kind of wanted to start playing guitar, and I haven't picked it up in months.
Yeah.
What inspired you to start learning guitar?
All right. So I actually started playing again about 2.5 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And what kind of inspired me was I retired from my day job as an engineering consultant about at that time, about 2.5 years ago. And just prior to that, I was downstairs in my storage area and I was cleaning it out. And down there was my old acoustic guitar that I begged my mother to buy me when I was 14 years old. And the funny side story to that is she did buy me that guitar. It was an Epiphone acoustic. And I did play it. I didn't, she wanted me to take lessons. I didn't want to do lessons because then it would feel like schoolwork, right? It would feel like being in band class again.
Mm-hmm.
So I just played on my own and I did the best I could. But any 14-year-old kid in the 70s, they want to sound like Jimmy Page. And no 14-year-old kid has the patience to put in the work, or at least this kid didn't. So I was trying to learn the melodies and scales, and it was fun, but it wasn't Stairway to Heaven, and I just wasn't excited about it. But about 6 months after my mom bought me that guitar that I begged her to buy me is when I discovered comics. And once I discovered comics, I never picked up that guitar again.
Wow.
Until 42 years later, when I rescued it from the storage space under the house, and I got it out. It was in the case the whole time. It was still in good shape, still looked great. Got it out, got out the old music books I had, started playing again, and I did that because while I still had the writing gig, that's largely part time. I knew I was going to have a lot of time on my hands, and I wanted to do something creative and constructive. So I thought, why not get a guitar, or why not relearn guitar, I should say. And I did that, and I did that for about 8 months, and then the pandemic and the lockdown hit, and we all got our stimulus checks, and I'm like, what am I going to do with mine? With mine, I bought my first electric guitar, bought my Fender Strat that I sometimes jam on when I'm feeling brave. And so I tag team between those two. But I basically was just looking for a way to keep my mind busy, to learn a new craft. And, who knows, maybe make something cool of it once I get good enough to do that.
I've always wanted to play the guitar, and I've never taken the opportunity to do it. And I actually bought one for $80. I don't even know what kind of guitar it is. And I just kind of started picking at it, and I was taking the lessons, and it was like schoolwork, and I just wasn't picking it up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to pay $25 for a half an hour to do this anymore. I'll just try it on my own. And
I get it.
There it sits. It's still sitting in its case back there.
But when did you start getting into it?
It was before the pandemic, because we were doing in person. So it must have been in 19, I guess.
So is that when you first picked it up ever in your life?
Yeah.
That's great, man.
Yeah.
Because
so
at least I had, it is like riding a bike. What I had learned and remembered, self-taught when I was a kid, plus what I learned in band, just about learning music and stuff, that all stuck. So I kind of had an advantage getting started. If I commend you for doing that, because if I was the age I am now and I was picking it up and trying to learn Twinkle Twinkle Little Star or something, I'm not sure I'd have the patience for it. But with that head start, it's just nice, because now I can hey, I can make melodies, hey, I can play that riff, and it's a lot of fun. So keep at it, man. Even if you put it down for a while, there's nothing wrong with that. Just don't let it get old.
That was one of my New Year's resolutions, is to do this YouTube channel more and learn guitar again. So, and
you can
every
make
year,
resolutions. I'm sorry. I was just going to say, you can make resolutions anytime you want.
Right.
I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
You're fine. And every year we have this common love for Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Every year we go see Trans-Siberian, and I'm like, I want to grow my hair long, and I want to learn how to play the guitar. And I'm getting the hair thing going, so I'm halfway there. So it'll happen. I just need to find.
We all start somewhere. I haven't seen a barber since I retired. So
really,
yeah.
I used to actually shave my head, and so I haven't seen a barber in 20 years maybe. And I quit my job on August 4th of 2020. No, yeah, 2020.
All right.
And I haven't cut my hair since. So, hey,
it's going pretty good, man.
A little bit of gray in there, but It works.
Well, see, if I'd be afraid to take a razor to my, because under this hat, I'm rocking a skullet, man, you know, and I'd be afraid. I shave anything off, it's not going to come back. So one of these years, in fact, the irony is, my former barber, he's my oldest friend. I knew him back in high school, and I message him every once in a while. I said, Johnny, man, I still love you. It's nothing personal. I'm just going all hipster, man. You know.
Yeah.
And he said, well, you know, you got to deal with those split ends sometime. And I'm like, I will, I promise, but just haven't been back yet.
Yeah. Now, real quick, let's talk about that background you got going on there. I see a couple Kiss albums back there. Are they
all right.
gold albums?
Let me slide out of the way. So what?
3 of them.
So let me see if all right. So that's a Trans-Siberian Orchestra platinum album for the the Lost Christmas Eve.
Mm-hmm.
And that one is for Night Castle.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to get those because as part of my I'll get to the Kiss ones in a minute, but the TSO ones are the most special because those were actually gifted to me from Paul O'Neill himself, who, for those who don't know, is the co-founder of Trans-Siberian Orchestra. And I'm not saying that to brag. Yeah, exactly. I'm not saying that to brag. I got an opportunity to interview him and Greg Hildebrandt for the outlet I write for now, CBR. And I talked to them about their collaboration. In fact, that's Greg's art, on these records.
That's awesome.
And I was talking to Paul and Greg about their collaboration on the programs and the album art and the program art and all of that. And Paul was genuinely thrilled to talk about something other than the music. Although anyone who's ever talked to Paul O'Neill knows he loves talking about everything. And he's an amazing guy. Everybody misses him. The people close to him, I can't even imagine how they feel. But through this interview, when the work part got done, he was nice enough to stay on the line and just chat about comics and the arts and music and everything else. And we really connected on that first call. And it was, we probably ended up staying on the phone 2.5 hours, maybe more.
Wow.
And the funny thing was, I didn't know this at the time, but that was on the first day of full band rehearsals for the tour in 2014, which was the Christmas Attic tour, the first and only time they did that tour, as you're probably aware. So what I didn't know was he was so into talking about the arts. He was leaving both East and West stuck on the flight deck there in Omaha, I think it is,
Yeah.
And I didn't know that. And while he's talking to me, their tour managers call him, was like, where are you? Where are you? And I kind of had to end it. I said, hey, man, I don't want to be the one responsible for holding up the tour. So he, before he went, he says, we've really connected. I'd like to send you something. And he offered me the Night Castle platinum.
That is sweet.
And I was moved by it. I didn't even know what to say to him. And then history kind of repeated itself the following year in 2015 when I got to interview him for a second feature for CBR. And that was when he gifted me that one. And we were actually going to do this like on a fairly regular basis. But as everyone knows, in 2017, he was taken from us too soon. So that never happened. But it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure not just talking to him, but to be able to help promote him and give something back to the band after everything they've given, all the fans. And those pieces I wrote about him every year around Christmas, I link to them on my Ramblings page. because there's always someone who never saw them. And it just, I reread them, and it's very moving to just be reminded how awesome he was, and to look at these on the wall and just remember how blessed it was to know this man at all. And those who work with him and are genuine friends with him, I can't even imagine what kind of loss that was.
And for those viewers who don't know, I mean, I've rambled on about TSO a lot. I mean, it's all over my Facebook page. They are, you don't want to just label them as a Christmas band, but they are
no.
freaking awesome. I mean, if imagine, well, they always say Christmas on steroids. It's just, it's great. It's something for everybody. It is just one hell of an awesome experience.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you're not on their payroll. I'm not on their payroll, but I will say anyone who has not seen Trans-Siberian Orchestra, go see them next year when they come to town, because it really is all that. It genuinely is.
And, I've seen them, I've been married 18 years. I think we've seen them 16 times. And I know you're right up there too.
64. I'm not trying to one up you. I mean,
that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
you travel more to see them than I do. Well,
sort of.
So
we have, Jill and I, we have traveled. We didn't this year. Our stops are normally in the area here, which is downtown Detroit, and then Toledo is about an hour south of here, so that's easy enough. But yeah, I've seen them in Chicago. We traveled to Erie, PA to see them one time. Grand Rapids, we roll the dice because Grand Rapids in December isn't always the nicest climate, but we've done it. It's fun. It's great. And too many times is never enough times to see them.
Exactly. I got Kansas City 5 hours away, Chicago 5 hours, and I'm not sure where they're at north and south of us. How close are they? Do they go to Little Rock? I don't remember.
I have no idea, honestly.
Yeah, but Indianapolis, I think, is 5 hours away. Yeah. So, I mean, everything for me is too far.
We hesitate to make travel plans in the wintertime.
Yeah, exactly.
But so we saw 2 shows in Toledo, 2 in Detroit, and we'd love to do more, but we got Christmas shopping to do too, and all our money can't go towards entertainment for us.
Well,
but I could be talking to Cena more times.
Christmas present for you.
That's a good argument right there, Paul. I'll remember that. We could be talking to more shows. Yeah.
Now, which do you like better, the East or the West? Or have you seen much of the West?
I have never seen West. Never seen West. So I don't want to say I like East better. Just that's who travels these parts. Now I have seen the spring tours, the Beethoven's Last Night tours, where it's not East or West. It's just the band.
Right.
And the extra players they bring on for the East and West shows don't hit the road for the spring tours. It's just the core band. And I don't know if you saw any of those shows ever back in the day, but they did for 3 spring times, I want to say. They toured for their Beethoven's Last Night CD. And I probably saw them 6-7 times maybe. So what was cool about that, it was cool seeing Chris Caffrey and Al Pitrelli on the same stage, and you miss Joel and you miss Angus from West, but they were tight, and the diehard fans keep hoping that they'll come around and do a spring tour again sometime. But I think they're not getting any younger, and I think the winter tours are tough enough on them as it is.
Yeah, and it's amazing that I was looking up. I guess it was last year, 2 years ago. I always forget about 21.
We all
sales,
try to.
Yeah, sales for concert tours. I mean, they only traveled, November, December. Granted, there's 2 bands, but they're always up at the top of the list. It's always like the Stones or somebody really big,
Yeah.
and then them,
Yeah.
they're usually top 5. That's amazing.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, and the fact that their ticket prices are still under $100, but yet they're a top grossing act like every year. It is incredible. And and with the production that it is.
Oh my God.
Joel Hoekstra told us one time, he says what Paul always did, he said, they get the money would roll in from the tour. They'd make their charity contributions, which are very generous, as you know, and as the fans know. They pay all the players, pay all the staff, all the crew, and then every penny that was left, he'd sink right back into the tour for next year.
Wow.
And it shows. It shows because, I don't want to oversell it and say every tour is bigger and bolder than the last, but
Right.
You've seen it enough times to know it doesn't get stale.
No.
It's not, it might
No.
be some of the same music, but it's not the exact same show every tour. They
Right.
change it enough. They change it up enough to make it fresh. And the fact that they can invest all this money in it and charge so little. Yeah.
You broke up on me a little bit there. Oh, that's weird.
It froze up, Paul, but I don't know if I can hear
There
you.
it is.
All right, you look good. You're moving again.
Okay, there we go.
I was gonna start CPR, man.
Yeah, but
so yeah, I don't know what all you heard, but I just capped it off by saying the fact that they can do this year after year,
yeah,
and charge as little as they do is nothing less than amazing.
And the road crew. I mean, tearing that stuff down, building it in so little time, it's just incredible. And all the moving parts that the band members are all over the place. It's amazing. People have to go see it. I mean,
absolutely.
If you don't have to go 64 times. Just go see it once. You'll go back. I promise.
Start with
one.
Will
go back.
That's right. I'll attest to that. Start with one and see how far you go.
Yeah. I still remember my first one, and I looked at my wife at the end, or even midway through it. I'm like, we're coming to more of these. This is awesome. This is
totally.
Yeah. This is awesome. Well, buddy,
I love it when I'm sorry. I was just going to add, I love it when I see a newbie have that reaction. Not you. I'm just saying when you're next to a new fan and they don't know what to expect, but by the 5th song, they're like, yeah, when can we get our tickets for next year? It's really cool.
I guess it might've been 5 or 6 years ago. A bunch of people I worked with, they all took their significant others, some of them for the first time. And I'm like, well, what do you think? And they were just speechless. I mean, they're just, I mean, that's basically it.
Exactly. So,
yeah.
You mentioned the crew. You want to see something really cool with the crew. And this is a rare time to see them in action. I'm sure when they used to do the signing line, you would wait in the signing line after the show, I imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you got someone to hold your spot in line, just peek back onto the floor and watch the crew take down that stage. Mm-hmm. It's like lightning. Mm-hmm. Like I swear, like after 30 minutes, like 80% of that stage is gone.
Right.
So none of us are privy to see it go up, but we can get a peek at it coming down, and it is nothing less than amazing. The only thing more amazing than watching that crew is the show itself.
Exactly. And if it weren't for that crew, there would be no show.
And that's what Chris Caffrey says every time he does band intros, and rightly so.
And that's what Al says. And we went to the last show of the tour here in St. Louis, and they always bring the crew out.
Yeah,
they didn't do it this year, unfortunately. I guess with COVID, they couldn't bring everybody up there together. And I specifically wanted to get tickets to the last show so I can get a picture of everybody up there. So I guess I'll have to go next year.
Yeah, Well, I mean, I guess I can say they were kept in separate bubbles.
Yeah.
That much, the crew and like the crowd were in one, and then the band was in their own.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, I know Wes, I think, had to cancel a show, and then I think they had a couple of their performers have to sit out. But by and large, they both bands got it together, and East, I don't think had a hiccup at all. So whatever protocols they put in place, they worked.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty
And
awesome.
if it means we can't get a photo with the crew, well, so be it. Life goes on. And I get it though. I've never been to a last show. I didn't know they did that. I didn't know they brought the whole crew out. That would have been a great photo.
I think we went to, and there was one other last show that we went to, and they did that, and it was pretty cool. I got a picture of it. And normally they come around about our wedding anniversary is December 27th, and I think one or two times they came on our anniversary, and that was pretty cool. I kept messaging somebody, hey, it's our wedding anniversary. Can you do anything for us? Nothing ever happened. But,
keep trying, man. You never know.
Cool. Get us on stage. Give us the guitar or something.
Yeah, right.
Whatever.
You never know.
Anyway, buddy, we are running out of time. They're about to kick us out, I think.
Go.
Yeah. So, hey, I appreciate you taking the time to do this.
I appreciate you having me on, Paul. Cool little interview. Be happy to chat again sometime.
We didn't get to those Kiss albums back there, so we're going to have to do that. It was fun.
All right, we'll save that for next time. There's sort of a story there. That's my lead in if we ever do a sequel. Maybe
what we could do is we could do a Cardinals Tigers game if they hook up sometime. We can arrange it to where they're
why not?
That time we could have like it in the lower third of the screen.
Get my foam bricks to throw at the screen if they're losing or something. Sounds like fun, man.
I'll do it downstairs in my bar where I have all kinds of Cardinal stuff. So
I'll go down to my man cave and that'd be cool.
Awesome.
That'd be cool.
Awesome. All right, thanks a lot, Jim.
Thanks again, man. Good talking with you.
And that's going to wrap up the show today. My thanks to my buddy Jim Johnson for taking the time to sit and chat with us today. Anything you need to know about comics, he has it there. Some pretty interesting articles that he has on his Facebook page. Go check it out. Thanks again, Jim. Appreciate it. Hope you guys all are staying safe with all this COVID stuff going around. Seems like things are kicking up. Be safe, everybody. Just stay away from people. Wear your masks if you need to. Just be safe. Anyway, until next time, hope everybody's doing well. I will see you soon.